Undisputed. The crew is back together. I'm Jenny Taft with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. Oh, I have missed you guys.
We missed you as well, Jenny. Thanks for being back. Skip did a great job getting us in and out quarterbacking. But I kind of felt bad beating up on a man that was doing two jobs. So now that he only has one, and that is to debate me, I feel better about beating him down again. Welcome back, Jenny.
Well, Shannon, I'm just glad Jenny is back because you need all the help you can get, and now you have some new help.
All right, we are going to start today with a glimmer of hope, guys, from Major League Baseball. So let's get to it. According to reports, the league and its players are focused on a potential return as early as May. How will this work? Well, the players will play at various ballparks around Arizona. The players will also be isolated at hotels. And this plan reportedly has support from some high-ranking federal public health officials. That is the latest. So, Shannon, how realistic does this sound to you?
That would be a huge undertaking. And from a logistics standpoint, Skip, obviously you'd have to bring the teams in. They would be away from their families. But the players, I think they understand, Skip. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, is that the players are not getting paid, or they have a stipend set up where it's like $170 million in the coffers, and tier players, I mean, you get money accordingly. But, Skip, guys want to get their salary. You have guys making $35, $40 million. They want to get paid. And listening to Jeff Passan last night, he talked to one player, and he's like, nah, I don't want to be isolated from my family for 4.5 months. Said player called him back, says, my wife said it'll be okay. So I think having to be isolated, Skip, that would be tough. But at the end of the day, athletes, they understand that their job is to play. And a lot of times they have to play in extreme circumstances. They're dealing with issues that a lot of times the general public doesn't know about. This happens to be a situation that everybody is dealing with. Skip, South Korea is moving ahead with their baseball. Remember that South Korea went through something very, very similar to what we're going through right now. And their health officials think they've already plateaued. They've reached their peak. They're starting to tail off. Obviously, in America, Skip, there are some states, New York and other states, Detroit is starting to feel the sting, have been hit harder than others. I don't think Arizona has reached nearly the peak, maybe even L.A., definitely not New York and some of these other states, New Orleans, Louisiana, New Orleans is a city that's been ravaged hard. So it's just a huge undertaking that you're going to put basically every MLB team in Arizona, play around. And another thing happens starting in May and in June, Skip. What's that? The temperature in Arizona outside. But if that were to happen, I don't think I would have ever been so happy to watch baseball, because I'm willing to watch anything right about now.
I hear you. This was the first little shred of good news that I've heard since that night of March 11th, that fateful night on which Rudy Gobert, it was announced, had tested positive. And that was the night, Shannon and Jenny, it just hit me right between the eyes. Wait a second. This is real. This is happening. All of our lives just changed. We just lost the entire NBA, maybe for the whole season, and our lives have been changed maybe forever. So this is the first small step, to me, back towards some kind of normalcy. We all dearly miss our sports. We all need the great escape that sports provide us. And this is a little ray of light that baseball has figured a way that I think would work maybe for baseball in a way it might not work for basketball. And obviously a lot of us are just as interested, if not a lot more so, in now what's the next move for the NBA. But I think this will work for baseball. I think, Shannon, Jenny, that it will, to create kind of a biodome, a bubble, if you will, in the Phoenix metro area, which, as Shannon suggests, is one of the least hardest hit of the metro areas by the coronavirus. You've got 10 spring training sites already established that are major league worthy. You have an 11th site that's the old municipal stadium. I used to cover a lot of spring training games there myself. Now Arizona State uses that. So there's 11. Then you've got Chase Field where the Diamondbacks play. That's 12. That's indoors with a retractable roof. So you could play triple headers there. You could play double headers, albeit in 110-degree heat at all the other spring training sites, all within it's about a 50-mile radius. So it's all drivable. And so you could relatively isolate all the teams in the Phoenix area. They would have to agree to basically be isolated from their families, depending on how long this went. I don't know, it could be 4 or 5 months. And it seems like there's a groundswell that they would be okay with being isolated from their families if they got paid, which they would start getting paid. And then you'd have to have a whole new set of ground rules that would work in baseball that might not work in basketball. And that is, you would still have social distancing because baseball's kind of a socially distant game to start with. So you'd have no more mound visits by the manager or the pitching coach. The umpire at home plate might be eliminated for electronic balls and strikes calling. So you could maybe create social distance between the plate ump and the catcher. And then you'd obviously, Shannon, as you know from your playing days, the locker room, or in baseball's case, the clubhouse, could be a test tube, like a petri dish of where this virus could breed at its worst. So maybe you'd have to eliminate the clubhouse situation. They're saying that players could sit up in the stands between innings when you're not on the field. When you're up a bat, you could spread out in the stands so you could socially distance that way. And I assume you would have to then, maybe you'd put on your uniform in your hotel room, and maybe you'd each need a driver of individual cars to take you to the ballparks. So there's a way to pull this off, because in baseball, as you know, Shannon, there's not a lot of body-to-body contact. It's not quite, and you're more covered than you are in basketball. So in basketball, obviously, you've got body-to-body contact, sweaty, sort of uncovered bodies for the most part. So that's a little trickier, a little harder to, there's too much of that. You'd have to spread everybody out. I don't know. I think it might be doable. The NBA has been kicking around the idea of doing this same biodome atmosphere in Las Vegas. But yesterday, Commissioner Silver spoke. He put up a little video on the the NBA Twitter feed. And his point was that the virus is moving faster than any of the medical experts thought it would, but that also could mean it will peak faster. So he was waiting to May 1st to make a call on what's left of the NBA season. And then Woj at ESPN reported that basketball has a drop-dead date now for the playoffs of Labor Day. So they're thinking of the whole summer toward Labor Day as their end game, where if they could get their 2019-2020 season finished by Labor Day, that it would still work, then to segue into the next season pretty much on schedule. So anyway, the point is, baseball has opened a little crack in the door where it feels like it could work. And it gives me a lot of heart, because obviously there'd be no fans in the stand, but we could watch baseball. And as you know, Shannon, we don't do a whole lot of baseball on this show, but I'd be happy to do a whole lot of baseball if that's all that we have to do.
Yes, Skip, you mentioned the term normalcy, and I was listening to Dr. Fauci speak. He says normalcy in what sense? We might go back. It might not be as extreme as what we're seeing right now, but this normalcy, Skip, might do what 9/11 did for traveling. It was never normal. You remember, Skip, before pre-9/11, you drive 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the plane was going to take off. You drive up, run through the airport, and get on a plane. 9/11 changed that. Well, this virus might change how we interact with each other, at least until they can get a vaccine, kind of like the flu shot, Skip, to keep this thing at bay. So normal might have to leave our vocabulary when we're talking about day-to-day interaction or even sports. Obviously, you heard LeBron says, hey, he was joking, but he's like, yeah, if I know the person, but the likelihood of me coming in contact now, out and dapping and hugging and high-fiving and taking pictures, you know, that might be a thing of the past. Skip, I was just, I had to run to the store. I had an emergency yesterday. I had to go get something. Skip, people still want to take pictures. I'm like, dude, are you for real?
No.
I mean, Skip, he's gowned out. He's got a face mask. He's got a face mask over his eyes. He's got a mask over his nose, and he still wanted to take a selfie. I said, bro, I'm sorry, but I ain't gonna be able to do that.
I got you. So if you look at the bigger picture of this, I still think baseball has a real shot here, because if we're all like Shannon, like you just said, we've all learned the new rules. So if you continue, obviously, to wash your hands regularly, if not like obsessively, and if you learn the golden rule, the number one rule, don't touch your face, and you keep 8 or 10 feet from the other human beings in your neighborhood, your ballpark, so to speak, then it would seem like you could go forward and have